Good morning, everybody. It's Marty the JavaScript Party, and it is Sunday, 8/23, the 23rd of August, 2026. It's absolutely beautiful here where I'm at this time. It's 74 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I think most people consider 75 like the perfect temperature. I mean, it is just gorgeous. I took the dogs out. I ran this morning. I am quite constrained for time. I'm waiting for this thing to build because my wife is going to a doctor's appointment, and and I will be watching my granddaughter all by myself. So that's going to be an adventure. I'm planning to take her to the playground. It's a very pleasant walk between here and the playground, and there's probably be a bunch of other little kids and stuff there. So I'm looking forward to that. But yesterday was an absolutely wonderful day, and yeah, everything's good in the neighborhood. All right, so we got a bug. Okay, so I feel like there's like these truths, and they're hard to like kind of look at because they're kind of embarrassing, probably more than anything else. Um, but I do find that the sort of the whole emotion of shame tends to be not particularly useful. Um, that's kind of cool. Let me do this real quick. But it's a bit embarrassing because, like my other project, I have a different project that I'm working, and that other project is called Simple 3JS. I'm like right now I'm on a bit of a hiatus as I'm doing a platform upgrade, but like I haven't put anywhere near the effort into that one as I've put into this one, and it literally does 30-40% more. Probably no, it's probably like hundreds of like 3, 400, 500% more than this does. And it's like coming along really rapidly and all that. And that happens a lot. It's really easy to just sort of get caught up in like platform and not in actual what you do, but more in the platform. And the problem with platforms is that the world is just constantly changing. And so platforms just can become completely useless. Um, but anyways, so I have a problem and it's a bug. And let's see, I'm going to inspect. I think I have it attached at the bottom, which I like. I think that's really cool. Um, all right, so console. And the thing is like if I add one of these guys, we get this really awesome console log that basically describes the entire state of the application. And see, we have this concept of a viz component, which is an Angular visualization component. Like, um, so I identify them. I don't really keep any properties about it, right? But I like if you look at any of the other ones, there are properties. Um, but the viz component is just an ID so that because I have a dictionary, I think somewhere where I get a um, reference to the component ID, to the component itself, so that I can do things to it. Um, but and it works perfectly in this situation, right? So we have the component is got an ID of 9, and then in here we have a viz component ID of 9. So then I have some sort of system somewhere that um, will do that. Will take care of this. Now, if I go into that will do whatever needs to be done to it, right? And there's lots of things that need to be done. So if I clear that out and I change views, the thing that happens is the new view comes in, the old viz component is destroyed, and a new viz component is created. Um, Now I think I try to be really careful with the way I destroy and create things, so it ends up just picking up the same ID, but it is in fact a different component. So it's like I create a new component, then I go, hey, what's the next ID? And then it goes, oh, the next ID is blah 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 is number 9. And by the way, that just happened to be the last ID. But and then what happened now, see, I kind of misread, and now I think I have a bunch of code that I'm probably going to end up needing to delete, and it's probably going to be the hardest sort of code to delete. It's like the kind of code when you like aren't even sure if it's doing anything or not. And this is when I'm so happy to have um, end-to-end tests. But anyway, so what happened was I went like this, and then I went here, and I was blown away when this was resized to the right size. And I was just like, oh, cool, that was done. I didn't have to do anything. But it didn't go to the right place. So if I come over here and I add a new one of these, add viz, like this is where it's supposed to go. And the idea is in the future, I'll be able to drag these around wherever I want and they'll render. Um, so, so basically now that makes me think out loud. I've set aside very specific, I've a concept in my head that this gets placed in wherever I tell it to go in the future. And I've kind of had that kind of, it's kind of been a ghost, a concept that has existed since the beginning. And it's sort of almost been a weight on the platform, like that has to, the platform has to accommodate that. And it's got thousands and thousands of things like that. Whereas in my other application, I haven't even put a thought into that, but I actually already have this functionality working. And I never even, I didn't think ahead. I didn't have, there was no architectural predestination in it. It was just me working organically, working along. And then when the time to try to place things came, it, and I'm sort of right in the middle of that right now. It just, then I looked at what I had. It's like we have a saying in the United States, and I don't know how much around the world it is, and I know the majority of people who watch my video are not from the United States, but we have a saying here in the United States of you don't try to cross that bridge till you get there. Um, like trying to plan for things ahead of time many times makes you, when you get there, not able to make the best decisions. But you do need to plan things ahead of time. It's a really hard balancing act. But anyway, so this guy right here, so now we have 18, and I don't know how that all works out. I believe that has a visualization. So you see, it used to be visualization ID of 9. 9 was a visualization, but see, it got destroyed when we changed, and when it came back, um, different numbers. So we have a viz component here, and we have a viz component there. So we have 11 and 19 are viz components. So I'm assuming that one's probably 19. Um, let's go look in this ST visualization. Yeah, see, so viz component 19 is this one right here. So, but we will destroy that viz component and then we'll bring it back. And I guess it will end up with, I don't know. I actually don't remember if we destroy the entire component and bring a new component back or if we keep this and populate it. I think we must delete it and bring it back. Either is fine. I don't think there's any problem with either. But now if I go into this view, and let's just clear this again, and I come here. So we go over here, and that is a funny little bug, but it didn't. So the point is that the second one didn't show up in the right place. And so I thought that was like, okay, I need to figure out how to get that to show up. And I started working on that code and I found some class, and this class has like, it's almost like a utility function that knows how to place these things in the right place. And so I was like, okay, so I need to do that. So then I go, okay, so let me go ahead and get a reference to the component because that class wants the component. And then I realized, oh crap, um, my whole, it isn't there. It says it's -1. If I look at my ST visualization, it looks like it's -1. And so I need to get that because I'm not going to be able to do it without that visualization. Well, then once we sort of circle back around, it becomes very obvious that, or it starts to, I start to get an inkling, I guess is a better way of putting it. I'm starting to get an inkling that this actually would have been put in the right place. This is the actual true bug. The bug isn't that I need to write some code to make it go to the right place. The bug is that if it knew what the right visualization was, it would probably already put it in. There's some other system. So the goal now is to get that viz component ID in here. So I see that I have this word upsert. Upsert to me means that like if it doesn't exist, create it. If it does exist, set it up. So, and we see that upserting happens, right? So if I come in here, and this is a kind of a trick that I use all the time, I'm going to type in upsert. And I don't know if it is case sensitive. But let's go, boom. Yeah, so now we only see those upsert ones. And then like the other thing that I'll quite often do is you'll notice that I have these, but as you see, it upserted the first one and upserted the second one, right? So that worked great. And then we go over here and it upserted the first one, upserted the second one. But then we go over here and we would expect it to upsert just one of them, but it doesn't upsert anything. So this one never gets upserted. Um, so we probably need to, and it wouldn't even be surprising if this little bug resolves itself when we do this too. Like it does seem like it is like it's rotating right now, but it's not being placed. So maybe after it gets placed, it would actually have fixed itself. Um, but anyways, it's not doing the upsert. We expected it to do the upsert, right? So like we go here, we get upsert, clear it here, get an upsert, get two upserts, clear them. Here, we're expecting an upsert. We don't get the upsert. So I think that that's what we want. We want to get the upsert. So we got to figure out, okay, how does this upsert get called? It gets called twice, 2 out of 3 times. Um, so the next step, in my opinion, is, this is a very, this is a skill that is so critical and so many developers don't have it. This debugging skill is just such a big, important skill. Um, And it's a really good skill to work on because when you have this skill, what happens is it works for all computer programming languages in all computing things. You just learn this, and really even like for your car and for electronics and everything, it's a skill that translates across tons and tons of different things. So So it looks like the only place I call it is there. So this is where, and I probably don't have this named private. The only reason I probably don't have this named private is because of the unit tests. I always found it harder to unit test private things. You can. It's very doable. I just find it harder. Um, but it is really nice having something named private because then you know, okay, I don't have to worry about how this is affected, how changing this code affects something outside of this code, because this only gets called from inside of here. So if I needed to change, especially if I needed to change some kind of like argument or something like that, it makes it a lot easier. So, and actually I can like one of my sort of my one of my friends at work and probably my biggest rival, he's a great rival to have because he's just a really good guy. Um, but he's actually the one working with his code is what taught me this because he's very, very good at calling things private when they're private. And my goodness, does that make coding uh, in other contexts a lot easier with with like Visual Studio Code because it doesn't provide you with those things that you probably shouldn't be messing with anyways. And then if you do decide you're going to make something not private, it gives you that pause to go, okay, wait, what am I doing here? Why did I build this thinking it was private and now it's not private anymore? Um, just gives you a second to it gives you kind of a heads up. So it looks like there's a function called setup visualization items. This one definitely feels like a private function. So let's see if this gets called. See, this actually gets a whole bunch of viz components. So it looks like this probably gets called, just my guess is this probably gets called whenever we like destroy a whole set of components and then bring them all back. And I probably thought, oh, I don't need to do that, or I missed it, or whatever, because um, it's just like, well, there's only one, but so that was probably just a bad guess at the time. Like at the time when I went and updated, I'm like, oh, well, I don't need to set up visualization items because they're all set up. But sort of a side effect of setup is upserting the visualization, which is probably the main intention of setup anyways. So again, there's another one where, okay. And so I have changed, right? And this is one of those things where it's just like, makes me feel good because the biggest the biggest enemy and biggest your biggest enemy and biggest friend as a developer is change, right? Like change is what makes it where new developers can come in and compete because it's always changing. So whatever their first, depending on what their first thing is, like I know there's been some really bad phases in software development, and there are some developers that came in during while we were doing absolutely just idiotic things as software developers. We had just some really, really bad ideas that just didn't play out. And a lot of these developers came up during that, and now like they're just no good for anything because the, it was just terrible, absolutely terrible. Um, and I think most of it is around agile. Just a lot of ideas around agile just don't work, which is a shame. All right, so this gets called over here. Um, nope. Okay, so now I'm looking for setup visualizations, which looks like it's just one line up. This is sort of the kind of code that I end up writing a lot when I have unit tests, because I like to break things down into units that are easily testable. Um, but it does result in a lot um, of um, like abstractions, right? Because you go, well, I want to break this little piece out. Okay, and then that little piece has a couple pieces, and I want to break those out. Um, and it's weird because um like most human beings are not very good at that, and the only reason I'm good at that is because I have lots and lots and lots of practice. And I wouldn't like I'm trying to learn the piano. I'm not trying to learn is probably overstating it. Okay, so this is a good one because it's no longer private, so this affects outside. um but so unit test. Oh man, I was going to say something that I thought was important. um I don't know. But anyway, so change is like as everything changes around you, like the best rules to accomplish things change. And and it just is happening really, really fast. Well, I see that I'm changing the way I code by now I'm adding private places to places where I didn't used to do private. So this is a sort of I didn't used to add private to everything. So this is a sort of thing that looks like a really good, it feels like a really good organic move forward, but it might not be. There could be consequences to this that I don't understand. And honestly, this is like I know a lot of developers that they do all their experimentation like this at work on their work code. You do not want to do this sort of experimentation on your work code. You have to evolve, but you can't evolve in your work code. Unfortunately, your work code is a bit of a fossil the minute you start coding it. It's built in context of the time that it was built, and you can destabilize it by changing the way it works. So anyway, so setup DOM visualization is called in two places. So this is probably my first really good hit because it looks like I call it twice, but it feels like I should probably be calling it three times. Um, and it takes the visualization items of everything that it gets. So, and that would be a reason why. Um, it looks like what this does is it's very intentionally grabs a group of viz components, Angular viz components, and it passes them in. There is no group. There's only a single one, but it still needs to go through the process. So I think, and that was just a story. That was a a a, a story. That was all it was like a story that I invented in my head in order to give me a direction to move in. But I'm still not sure exactly. There was used to be a movie, I think it was called either K2 or K5. I can never remember. There's a very famous mountain. It's either K2 or K5. And it had Brad Pitt in it. I think it was a movie that came out like in the 90s. It was really, I remember really enjoying it. I think Edward Norton might be in it as well. Um, and he was saying um, Brad Pitt would always, anytime anyone in his climbing group, they were trying to climb to the top of the mountain, anytime they'd say anything, he'd always say, "Oh, that's a good sign." Um, and that was like the beginning of a story in order to get that group to the top of the mountain. Well, this is the a story. I don't know how accurate it is, but I think the idea is the story I've created in my head is that um, when this comes up, once it's all done, it analyzes, it queries the entire DOM looking for these components, and when it finds them, it uses this setup visualization to um, set up the visualizations to get them all set up in the in here. So like we don't have any console logs because upsert only happens for those other ones, but basically I think that I believe when we looked at that set of visualizations, we saw that that's how this guy gets an ID. And right now it doesn't have an ID, but it does get an ID when we're in custom layout and tabular layout. So that is my story. I'm trying to really solidify it because as I dig into this code, different parts of my brain are going to start having to be very, very, very focused and consumed. And when that happens, if I don't have this story really well thought out ahead of time, it'll um it'll just get lost. It'll get fragmented and all that. So then I'll have to kind of start over when I go around the next round. Like if this pass that I'm doing this time doesn't work, if I get lost in that then it's like if that happens, then I'll probably end up in this exact spot that I'm in right now again, looking and trying to go through again, and we'll see what happens. Um, so it's almost like in like any whenever you play sort of those Dungeons and Dragons types game and all that games, you almost always end up in like some meeting place, quite often like a bar or something. Um, and you're talking and there's somebody who knows something and then they hire you for a job or something like that. We're in the bar right now. We're at the part where we're like, okay, there's a plan. We have a plan. We have a problem. There's a dragon. There's a bug. We got to go find the bug. Okay, here's the story, blah, blah, blah. That we could just take our first step out and find out that story is completely wrong. But the story that we have right now is that when these things come up, they scan the screen, the DOM. They find all the viz components, and then they call this set up DOM visualization. Okay, so um, and I am doing this like thing. So we are three sort of things in. I thought it was like a notepad. Wasn't it like a notepad I was using? Let's see, to do. So funny the stuff that you can get. Just I don't know. I don't know. This is weird. Um, Let me go over here. I'm gonna find one. See, this is, and I don't know. Is this good or bad? Is my now getting distracted by trying to find this um, update settings, trying to find this. It's got to be in here. I guess it's yeah. See, that is yeah. Why? That's weird. So this is the one I want, and I want three of them. And I don't know why it didn't show up like my normal way. That was weird. But I felt like it was important that I go back there and do that just to validate to myself that my brain is actually functioning properly. So because had remembered like a little notepad thing. Okay, so I think it's supposed to get called when when the update, now I have to do this edit because I call it two different things. So now update edit page comes up. Alright, so now I'm just gonna go, oh, look at update layout service. But I guess we need to go back to this thing here. Okay, so yeah, so in the constructor, I do a set timeout, and then I call the visualization, and then I do this update visualization class layout. Oh, viz count, viz service, component service. See, I think this is actually what places it. So he places it properly at this point. And so a comment would have been helpful here. I think that this is where how the viz the component ID gets set, and then the UI, and then the UI lays it out. Oh, and that is why. That's why I didn't do it in edit, because I probably didn't. When I first came up with the idea of edit, I probably thought it was always going to be maximized. Um, so I'm assuming that in the other one, there's something very similar to that. Yep. And I think I need something like this in update. Okay, so now let's go into update layout. And then let's go to update layout, and let's go look in the, oh, let's delete that. This is my, nope, I'm not even gonna say what it is. I refuse to even acknowledge it, other than the fact that it's gone. And then I'm guessing in here. Okay, and I don't know if it's, I don't think it should be part of the effect. Okay, so I think that I need to call. What do we have here? Let's go back. Baby, come back. Looking for my where I made that comment. So there should only be one, and this probably actually isn't the right place to do it. Yeah, because it's a way more complex, right? Okay, so it's probably not here. Um, we probably need to call it here. Actually, yeah, it might actually work if we do that. Okay. Anyways, so that gives me a good starting place for tomorrow morning. Happy coding, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.